front end. So
Mm-hmm.
mainly like I'm getting a task on front end and just develop like work on that and just going to like submit it and testing by the postman. Okay, and about my experience about my backend. So from the starting I'm working as a backend developer. Okay, and so far I'm working on sport domains, education domain and aviation domain. Currently I work as in a search engine application like a Google, but it's the application is related to organization level only. Okay, the person belong to organization only search the events, okay, related person information, any documents. So this is about the work experience I have.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mhm.
So, can you just like brief about your current project?
Yeah, okay. So my current project, as I told, that is a search engine kind of project. Okay, in this we have multiple services. Okay, one is connector service, one is index service, and one is processing service. And we also using Elasticsearch for querying. Okay, and in UI will be in Angular. And first of all, from the UI, user need to be authenticated. So we are using single sign-on. Okay, so for that we have using, I think, Microsoft authentications. So after that, token will be generated, and user is able to uh, get into our applications. Okay, and for the they're like access guarantees. Okay, so we have one of application in which we have provided the access, what kind of access a user have. Okay, authorization. So then we are providing that he has read write on the basis of that at their authorizations or access type, he will get the information in UI. Okay, apart this, if we're talking about like how the information getting to show in the UI, we have connector service. That service will be reading the data. So okay, so there are multiple connectors that we use. So one is like web page crawler. Okay, so we crawl the pages, from that we gather the information, and sometimes others user provide their I suppose like Excel sheets. From the Excel sheet we are getting the data, and some we have Rust endpoint. From that we are getting the data. Okay, after this, when the data is reading, then it's after reading it's going to the index service. Index
Mm-hmm.
service purpose is to mainly perform two operations. First operation is to store the data in MongoDB as a permanent storage. Okay, and then it will be sending to the next service, that is processing service. In processing service we are process some data. Okay, writing some logics. Okay, adding some more fields into this. Okay, after that processing we can send it to the Elasticsearch.
Okay.
Okay, after that it will be showing in an index service, that index
Do you have any experience in microservice?
yes, I have.
Okay. So, can you just explain me what is the disadvantages of using a microservice?
Okay, one of the advantages is distributed environment. Okay, and maintaining the transaction as well, because in distributed environment we have to maintain the transaction, like because each service have their own transaction. To manage the transaction is very difficult. Okay, but the Microsoft provided their own patterns like Saga patterns, okay, and orchestrate pattern to handle the transactions. Okay, and fault tolerance is also a big challenge. Okay, because one of the services not running. Okay, so we have to tackle this. So also there's like some solution that provided by like Eureka. Okay, and we Eureka that if the instance is running, then the request will be going to that instance. And apart this, we have running multiple instance of the service. Okay, and deploying also one of the main concern, because it's required a lot of cost. Okay, and currently I just remember this, and also need to maintain the CI/CD pipeline. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, can you just explain me the circuit breaker pattern?
Sorry, which pattern?
Circuit breaker.
Hello.
Cir- Circuit breaker.
Circuit breaker. Okay, so in circuit breaker, we are using Hikari. Okay, currently. So in this, we are mentioning like the annotation, that is Hikari command. I think annotations in which what happened. We are mentioning the fallback method. Okay, so suppose I am calling some within a method I am calling some third-party services. Okay, so the method will be throwing the exception one time, second time. Okay, and after some time, what happened? The circuit is break, so that the fallback method default called. Okay, that will be give a time to the service that we calling from the method to up. Okay, so relax time so that it can up and get up to work. So that is called the circuit breaker pattern.
Mhm. Okay, and so as we have a multiple microservices, how will you aggregate the log?
Okay, so for that same logic that we have log file bit. Okay, so file bit what happened? So it will be reading the files, okay, from multiple services. Okay, that multiple instances running. So one instance running somewhere. Okay, so the file bit running, reading the logs and sending to the our log size environment. Okay, from that we are just getting this reading the logs for each services that is running.
Okay, okay. So, what about the caching strategy? How are you handling the caching?
Okay, so for caching we are using Hazelcast.
Okay,
Okay, so we are currently as we are using the least frequently used. Okay, so which is the least used, we can remove the items from the
mm-hmm.
our cache. Okay, and for, like we are using a Java client. Sorry, Hazelcast Java client that is used to connect to the Hazelcast. Okay, and getting the object that required that map or list or something. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and setting the data into and getting to other services. So this kind of this by this kind of we are using this Hazelcast for caching purpose.
Okay, okay. Spring framework. So, can you just explain me what is this Spring Boot application annotation is?
Spring Boot
Spring
annotation.
Boot application.
Spring Boot application. Okay. So what this annotation will do? It is the combination of three annotations. One is configuration, one is component, and is enable auto configurations. Okay. So what will it do? It will be do like component scanning also. Like okay, that we mentioned. It also create a bean of that class. Okay. Component for mainly creating the beans and configuration for you just to configure the class. So we can also mentioning some bean inside that class. Okay. And apart this enable auto configuration, what it will do? It will read the classes from the path and like initiate the beans, okay, and injecting into our like required beans or classes.
Okay. And what is the difference between IOC and dependency injection?
IOC dependency injection, different types, right? You are
No, no.
asking.
I'm asking what is the difference between IOC and dependency injection?
Okay, so as per me, okay,
Yeah, please continue explaining.
yeah, I'm saying like IOC is like a design pattern, okay, and dependency injection is implementation. As I
Mm-hmm.
come to know, okay, so there are multiple way to achieve the dependency injection. One way is setter dependency injection. One way is constructor dependency injection.
Okay.
Okay, and apart this, like IOC also, like if we talk about the IOC containers. So there are two types of containers that Spring provided: Bean Factory and application context.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, what is the difference between a bean factory and application context?
Okay, so Bean Factory is combination like Bean and Core. Okay, so what is responsibility? It's just maintaining the life cycle and assemble the things. Okay, and wiring the beans. Okay, apart this, it application context like extension over this Bean Factory. So it will be provide like internalization. Okay, and event handling. Okay, and for callbacks. This kind of other features it provided over Bean Factory.
Mm, okay. So we'll move on to the REST API. So can you just tell me what basically the REST API is?
Okay, so REST API like from some any other application, maybe we can call like other application, other Postman or other things. Okay, so we are just sending the data and the response will be coming into like in any format, like we have XML, okay, okay, or like JSON. Okay, so it's the RESTful API is just like architecture architecture styles. Okay, and REST is the implementation. To achieve this, we have like Spring provided REST controller. Okay, controller as well, and multiple methods that supported by the REST. Okay, So we have get, post, delete, okay, update, sorry, put. This kind of method provided by the Spring to achieve the REST APIs.
So we generally call the resource. Okay. So what basically the resource is?
Resource. I suppose like the data that we are getting from the application, which we are calling from the REST endpoints.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you are on the right part. So it is basically the how the data is represented in the architecture, REST API architecture. So we have a
Maybe the
different.
word I'm not getting it properly. Resource, but resources are the data or the information that we require.
So what are the different methods of? So I was asking what are the different methods you are aware about in get post. These are the methods, right? So any other method you are aware about, and what is the uses of these methods?
Okay, so mostly we are using this get, post, put, okay, delete methods, CRUD operations. But I think there is some fetch method.
So can you please explain what is the use of this method, when we should go for the get method, when we should use the post put?
Okay, so mostly we are using get method for getting the information from the REST endpoint. Okay, post for creating the new resources, put for updated. Okay, but also it is doing one thing, like if the data is not present or the resource is not present at the like service, then it will be created it, and delete, use for delete the resource.
So one major reason of disadvantage I consider is the security, because see, from one microservice to another microservice, if you are calling, so there can be a security issue would be there. So how you are implementing the security? What all mechanism you are aware about
Okay,
security?
so we are using this like keys configuration, like secret tags or symmetric key. Yes, symmetric key. Mainly we are using symmetric key, okay, to communication between the microservices. So every message that is sent to the one service to another service, that need to be like authenticated with the symmetric keys. Okay, so that the message is like check whether it's like in a proper format that is sent in via the service, the respective sender or not. And also in some microservice we are using asymmetric key in encryption, okay, so that the one service has sharing the public key to others
Mm-hmm.
and decrypt by the private keys.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What about the auth to JWT? Are you aware about this?
Yeah. So that will be used only for authentication purpose. Okay, internal communication between the microservices to validate the message, we using this secret text, symmetric key and asymmetric key encryptions. But for authentications, okay, so once the user is authenticated, okay, like we have auth server, okay, from that the request will be coming when they check in the API gateway layer, okay, that we have in our application. The request authenticated, or that request had token or not, or valid token or not. If not, then it's going to the authentication server check for the authentication. If not, then the UI page for the login, it will be showing. Okay, after that, it will be running a token. Okay, and for each request from the UI, we are sending in a header. Okay, this token we are sending, and this token every time is validating. Okay, and in every service, we are just trying to call our authentication server to check this, to validate this token.
Mm-hmm. So what is this? What is the difference between authentication and authorization?
Okay, so authentication, that user is exist or not. Okay, simply, and authorization, what kind of access this user has, whether it's only read the information from the service, or it has authority to update the resources.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mhm.
And how we can scale up our microservice?
Okay, so to scaling up, we can run multiple microservices instances.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Okay.
so like if my service is one service that has multiple requests at a particular peak of time, okay, then this instance will, the particular service instance will be running, multiple instance will be running that time.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And for
What is
deployment, like,
what
sorry,
is
sorry,
horizontal and vertical scaling?
yeah, we are mainly preferring in microservices, we are not preferring vertical scaling. we are prefer horizontal scaling.
Okay. Why so?
Okay, because for like horizontal scaling, sorry, vertical scaling, we have only one instance to handle the request. Okay, in horizontal scaling, we have multiple instances. Okay, to handle the request, so we can distribute the request multiple instances, so that it will be better utilized or give a better performance, I can say.
Okay.
Or we can simply say the multiple requests it can handle in a single time.
So I just enable. You need to find the prime number from 1 to 1000.
1 to 1000. So I start from the 2 because first is prime number, 2 is from 2 I started because 2 is prime and 3 is prime, and because of that all the multiply of 2, okay, going to be -1, so that the number are not prime numbers. Okay, same for 3 and same for others. Okay, so at the end we have a array that have only prime number and the value not -1. Okay, the prime index does not have value -1, so that I can add into the prime, okay, this list and returning this list. So this list contains all the prime numbers, okay, between the range that we have from the 1 to the last index we have.
Okay. You must be working on the either JP or Hibernate, right?
Yeah,
So what is the difference between get and load method?
get and
Load.
load. Okay, so load method is lazy loaded. Okay, get method is agarly loaded, and the get method is used for mainly for like check whether the object present or not. Okay, so if suppose I'm just trying to get an object that is not present into database, okay, that time it's returning the null. Okay, but if we try to load this method, okay, by this resource or this object from the load method, it will be throwing the exceptions. Okay, so this is the main difference between these two methods.
Okay. And what about the evict method? Have you ever used the evict method?
Evict method. Evict method, as the name suggests, it will use for remove the object from cache, I suppose.
Okay. So there are different stages are there. The object state is there in Hibernate. What all those
Right,
state?
right. One is the persistent, okay, one is transient, and one detached.
Detached. Can you
Okay,
please
so
explain? Yeah.
yeah, if the object is not related to any transaction, okay, like I'm creating a new entity object, okay, that is not related to any transactions. Okay, so that time it's at the in transient state. Okay, one we call the save on that object. Okay, or it will be coming, or we load something from the database, okay, within the session. That's time the object in transit, persistent state. Okay, and after like we are just detach it, okay, evict it. Okay, so it will remove the object from the session. Okay, then it will be going to the detached stage.
Okay. So have you ever come across any production issue?
One of the issue like mainly all the related issues come into like okay, but sorry, testing environment. But one of the issue that I face in production is that in my microservice, okay, some of the issues are some like my microservice, like my module in microservice is what happening. We are mainly reading the files, okay, so that data is readed and it's going to the multiple microservices, okay, and that time some of the records, okay, like each row each row we are creating some objects, okay, and we sending it to the new microservice, but on the small records it will be working fine. So okay, and we tested in the testing environment with the like 1000 or 2000 or 1000 or 10,000 records, it's working fine, there's no issue. But when in the production it's running with a huge amount of like millions of records, okay, that time we are facing some issue that some record are missing, like from the service that initiate the transaction, okay, so that is responsible for like to like notification to other services that okay, or like we have notification service, we can say that. Okay, so that will be notify the other services that this transaction will be completed. Okay, so that it will be keep the record of number of count of the message that it send it to the in the process. Okay, so some of the record like 2 or 5 messages are missing every time, then we are running into multiple like in like multiple records or like millions of records. So we are trying to fetch it like how it's going on, but we are running multiple time in local to test like how it's working, but we are not finding this any kind of issue in our code. Okay, so we are going to check like the services that we are using like Hazelcast, maybe Hazelcast are missing something. Okay, then we are going to like RabbitMQ. Only the reason because as I say, all the record that coming into our services that will be working fine, and that going to send to the database or other database to store. All the record will be stored, but the communication that we use like Hazelcast or RabbitMQ, okay, that we check the RabbitMQ will be that time will be shutting down many times during that duration because of the multiple huge amount of data. Okay, so that issue within this RabbitMQ, and we just increase the memory of the RabbitMQ, and after that that issue will be fixed, and we are not facing some this kind of exception
Okay.
or issue after that.
Mm-hmm. So you worked on the SQL also, SQL queries or not?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So can you just write one query? So query is like you have a worker table. So you need to find the last 5 records from the table.
Last 5 record.
You must have worked on the Java 8 also, right?
Right.
What all features you have worked on?
Okay, so like main feature like Lambda expression, date APIs that we are currently using, okay, and like streaming APIs, the functional interfaces. These are the main feature that we are used.
So can you just tell me what is the need of using a stream API? Earlier what was we used to have. So
Okay, so
yeah.
yeah, so this is like we can say like initially or before that Java 8 stream API, we have to write what to do and what we have to do, like, okay, so we have to write iterate the by manually, okay, then we have to write the logic, okay, so we can functional programming, I just not remember particular name, okay, or so that will be not done in a stream API. So here we just need to